I'm a truck driver and I'm about to lose my job because of autonomous vehicles. What should I do to prepare for the change that's coming? I sat down with a psychiatrist for 30 minutes, had just a conversation like this, and it listened to that conversation and wrote highly technical notes about the conversation, about my mental state. Like, oh, he has PTSD. He's been sexually abused as a child, and put them in scientific language for the doctor so that the doctor could watch me over time and see if I'm improving. That's crazy. 30 minutes, right? What happens after 40 hours?
Hello and welcome to Polyweb. I'm your host, Sara Landi Tortoli, and my guest today is Robert Scoble, author, former technical evangelist at Microsoft, and chief strategy officer at Infinite Retina. In this conversation, we explore the new frontiers of spatial computing and AI and the potential threats and opportunities that you can leverage. Robert, welcome to Polyweb.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh my God, I already know that this conversation is going to be so much fun and you're going to take me into some very, very deep rabbit holes. And we can, this is also like a podcast, so some people, don't see, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
but without further ado, I'm, I always like to know some of the background of the people that I have on the show, and
Yeah.
I'm most fascinated about early years and early decisions that you took in your career and in your life that are crucial and led you to the person and the career that you have today.
Yeah. My mom got a job uh, with a woman named Hildy Licht, who still runs a business in Silicon Valley, to build Apple II motherboards in our house. And that was 1978 when I was 13 years old. And I got paid $1 to load the boards with all the components. And then she would solder them. And later she taught me how to solder on these boards, which got me an early job at HP. That got me to fall in love with the motherboard because it was the most beautiful thing I'd seen to that point. It was really pretty impressive piece of technology. And later, in 1989, I met the guy who designed that motherboard at a community college I was going to. And I would never have recognized him or cared about him if I didn't build those motherboards. And that got my career started. That was Steve Wozniak, and a co-founder of Apple. And so that got my career started and led to interviewing thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs over the years. And yeah, that kicked it all off. It all springs from that. Yeah, being Apple's first child laborer.
Yeah, that's actually absolutely incredible. How
Yeah,
so? How did being one of the first people that worked at Apple, change your life? Because you mentioned that started a journey that led you to talk with many, many, many entrepreneurs, and
yeah.
most people cannot even dream of having such a background and history. You work with Steve
If you told
Wozniak.
me Yeah, if you told me I'd be working for Bill Gates at some point and had the first ride in the first Tesla with Elon Musk, or been an early user of Instagram, I was the 79th user of Instagram because of this, right? So if you told me all of that at the beginning of my life, I wouldn't believe it. It would be science fiction, you know?
I'm very curious because there seems to be people that are always at the right place at the right moment in history. How did that happen for you?
My dad grew up in poverty in Brooklyn, in the projects of Brooklyn, and went to the army, got the wealth to get a PhD at Rutgers University, and his first job was in Silicon Valley at Ampex, which made the first VCR. I was lucky because my dad got this job, in a place that but very few people knew about. Right? It wasn't Silicon Valley back in 1971. but he bought a house in Cupertino for $65,000. Today, that same house is $2 million.
The best
Yeah,
investment of a lifetime.
yeah. I'm still here because of that investment. He died a few years ago, so you know. But yeah, that's sometimes people get lucky. I got lucky because my dad moved us to Cupertino, California in 1971 before Apple started, right? And Apple started a mile from my house. So, and that was my first startup to visit. When I was 13, because I built this motherboard, I really liked Apple computers. We had at High Junior High in Cupertino, we had the first Apple II computers. I was part of the little computer club there. Only 5 people, right? And my dad bought an Apple II as well at home. So we were surrounded by Apple from childhood, and now they're in my ears. So,
I will say, like, I agree with you to a certain extent when you say that I was lucky. I was at the right place at the right time, right? Machiavelli in The Prince wrote about luck, the importance of luck. You can have many qualities, but you kind of have, you know, destiny sometimes needs to put you at the right place at the right time. And so
yeah,
I understand that must have played a role in the way you
yeah.
started, but all the rest, that came after.
There's a
Uh,
lot of work there. If I grew up in Kansas, I wouldn't be who I am. I'd be something else. you know. So, but yeah, you're right. Thousands of interviews. That's a lot. That's not luck. That there's work there, and then getting jobs at Fast Company magazine and Microsoft and all that, and being a strategist and working at the highest level of a company and being able to see at Microsoft, my job was to go around with a little video camera and interview people and represent the company on my blog. Right? That's insane. Thinking back on it, I got to interview 600 employees from the janitor to Bill Gates. And understand one of the best companies in the world. From the inside.
so, like, doing an interview myself, I'm kind of obsessed about questions. Like
Yeah.
I have like a note on my Apple. Like I use Apple Notes,
Yeah.
nothing very complicated or fancy. But I have these notes, and it's titled like best questions. And basically, everywhere I go, I try to collect questions or whatever
That's smart.
podcast I listen to, and then I'm like, oh, okay, how can I use this question to ask something out of my guest. And so I wonder, in all those interviews that you did, all the people that you talk, did you have like a method for coming up with a question and like ideas really of how to get the best out of them? Because this is really like a
No.
very selfish question at this point.
Yeah. At Microsoft, I carried a little Sony $250 camcorder, right? And because I only had a camcorder and I was doing everything cheap, I didn't have a video crew, right, with lights and cameras and tripods and all that. I got that later, but I only could focus it on one thing. I couldn't focus it on myself, which was really important because I'm very selfish and I like, focus on myself. But being forced to aim at somebody else and listen to somebody else was a big deal in the corporate setting. No, it comes down to passion and you know excitement of some nerd building some mic. Like I remember at Microsoft Research meeting a guy who built an array microphone, which is a box with 4 separate little microphones. Now my headphones have like 4 microphones built into them, but back then it was he got approval to spend $10,000 building this thing, and back before it's in everybody's phones and headphones. And when I meet somebody like that, I'm just excited about it. I want to know about it. I want to learn about it, and I want to learn what drove them to build that. And it's it's the passion that really got me into so many things. And I see it. My kids don't have that passion, right? they have passion about other things, but they don't have that passion about new companies or new technologies or people who are doing changing the world or stuff like that, right? They just don't ask questions. They don't have that kind of interest in what's going on. And so that's what drove me. I very rarely did what you did, which is prepared questions. Once in a while I would, but maybe for Bill Gates, I'd have a bunch of questions that I wanted. But even with him, the question that that caused him to think a little bit was like, if you were a kid interviewing or a guy interviewing the world's richest person, what would you ask? And he had to think about that because it wasn't something that he had a pre-written answer for. Because he's been interviewed by so many people that he has a pretty good idea of how he's going to answer every question. It's very rare he gets a question he's stumped by.
Yeah. And I'm like, when I have guests such as you, I always wonder, oh my God, I have a person that has so much knowledge. And conversation can go in so many directions. How do I
Yeah,
make the most out of it? How
yeah,
do I cover an angle that maybe has not been covered before because you've been interviewed by so many people?
yeah,
So it's very difficult if you do it without preparation, and even with preparation, I mean, you could
yeah.
fall way below the line anyway, so
It,
it's no guarantee. But I'm curious, so with this uncanny ability to spot trends, and that, like, and being a strategist, right? How do you spot those trends very early on? So, like, if you were like imagine you're a computer, right? Which sorts of data point would you look at, to predict technology that will be significant, and spit out an algorithm that predict the impact that they're gonna have? So I'm very curious
yeah.
about how your mind operates, and if you have a system, a process.
I don't have a system per se, but in hindsight, I sort of did. Microsoft paid me to go around the world interviewing people, right? So I got to go to Microsoft offices all like in England and other places. And because of my travels and then getting invited to speak at places, like I spoke at Google's first advertising conference, right? As a Microsoft employee, that was a pretty crazy deal. And I was like, well, why is Google inviting me to speak? But I had a public space and I was friendly to Google, right, on my blog. And so that got me invited there. Because of that, I got to meet a lot of people who are building things that still haven't come true, even 12 years later. It takes a long time for innovation to move from like Microsoft Research Labs, where like Andy Wilson had a whole augmented reality lab 20 years ago, right? And it's just now starting to become real. And so, a product that consumers it could have in their homes, right? And so it was just my ability to go to Israel and Germany and go and visit all these startups and founders and hang out with them and be at conferences and be in the flow. And now Twitter and this new Threads thing that just came out last night are where that group of people is meeting every day, right, and sharing what they're doing. And so like on Twitter there's a guy who just shares all the AI papers coming out of Stanford and Carnegie Mellon and all these different places, Meta and Apple and OpenAI and stuff like that. And so you just watch those and you start understanding where is the bleeding edge computer scientist working at? Well, when is that going to come out to a real product that normal everyday people can buy? And you sort of start watching that, right? And yeah, so we all know a humanoid robot's coming someday, so I'm watching that, right? And trying to help it along if I can, right?
Are there particular communities or places that you always, you know, have a lookout for, that you say, okay, I'm gonna watch those people, and see what they come up with, like early
It,
experimenters and.
Yeah. It's not one person. Today it's a group of people. So yeah, I have I have like 70 Twitter lists of investors and founders of companies and AI researchers and different kinds of people like that. and all the tech news and all the world news. So I can watch the entire world go by, on my screen. In fact, it's sort of underneath you, so I can watch the world go by. If something dramatically important happens, we can talk about it, right? No, it's just hanging out with people who are building the future. They let me know what's coming, and I mean, I had dinner with the guy who ran Google's R&D, and we talked about the autonomous cars and what's coming, and that was 8 years ago, and it's still coming. Right? So it still hasn't really happened yet. I mean, it has in San Francisco, but my neighborhood doesn't have an autonomous car on it. Okay, there's a Tesla in the garage, but it doesn't have a Waymo, a Google car.
Since we're talking about this, I'm very curious. Out of all the technological innovation that are coming out, or they're already like out, what do you think will be the most transformational, and why in different fields as well?
It's clearly AI right now, right? But I still am focused on augmented reality because I see in a few years, I've started seeing a lot of prototypes of glasses that look sort of like this, a little bit chunkier, a little bit bigger, but that have screens, cameras, microphones, right? And you start thinking about and talking to the innovators who are thinking about this and dreaming about it and working on it for years, right? I mean, I met Thomas Furness at the Augmented World Expo this year. He's been working on VR since 1965, since I was born, right? So there's people who have been working on techniques and technologies for a long time that still haven't really caught on with the consumer because they haven't gotten cheap enough, good enough, light enough, small enough, enough processing. But in the next 5 years, we're hitting that, right? The computers are, I mean, you see these little AirPod Pros has more computer in them than an iPhone 4 had, right? So the computers are shrinking, 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 getting more and more powerful, and that's leading us into a new place. So I would still say spatial computing, augmented reality is the one that I think most people will when they get glasses, they'll understand it. Now, the truth is, a lot of what you're going to see and hear in those glasses is going to be produced by AI. And so AI really is the driver, is the engine that is going to create the experiences that people are going to, want to experience in these glasses. And by the way, that's why I went crazy in the last year. I followed on Twitter. I followed 70,000 people in AI. If you're building an AI, I was following you, and I did that because I see, these two things are going to join in the next 5 years, right? And I want to
Yeah.
watch that from the people who are building it, and help it along, participate in it, and understand it, and then have something to say about it. Write a book about it or whatever. I wrote two on spatial computing on this augmented reality, and Qualcomm's head of AR and VR said it's a must read. So
How do you think spatial computing can change
yeah,
the way that we interact with technology
yeah.
today? What it makes it so significant?
And with each other,
Yeah.
because so here's an example of where I get lucky. Researcher at Unity took me in and showed me some of the prototypes of what they're working on, and they cut my kitchen in half. And so I'm wearing a device, right? And you're wearing a device, and I see your kitchen on the other half. And then you can walk out of your kitchen into my kitchen. And that's crazy shit, right? But that's coming. It's coming next year. And so, the problem is nobody, the first device, the Apple device, is $3,500, and they can't make enough, even if everybody could afford it, which they can't. They can't make enough. So we have to wait a few more years until that gets down in cost to, let's say, under $1,000. Then the mass market starts getting attracted. And the device has to go from a big, ugly thing on your face to a pair of glasses. And that'll happen over the next 5 years, right? 5 years from now, we're wearing a pair of glasses. I've seen them. They're really cool. And people don't understand why you would need that. But once they see it in a store, like, and that's Apple's whole goal with this new device, is to get you to the Apple store to try it, just to try it. They don't want to sell it to you. They don't have enough. They can only make 400,000 of these things. They just want you to see that there's a new way to compute that's way better than looking at a 2D glass screen like I am right now. Right? This would be way better if we were in a 3D space and we could, sit around a table like we do in the real world. And that's coming. Yeah.
I I'm very very curious that this will change things like not just for the way that we interact with technology and with each other, which I'm very
Yeah.
very excited about.
We could play ping pong with each other. We could play blackjack with each other. Right? We could go bowling or mini golf. You're going to see a whole range of things the next year come out for the Apple Vision Pro. And Zuckerberg has a cheaper competitor, right? Coming as well. So we'll see a lot of innovation next year, I believe.
But
And by the way, the AI stuff is just insane, right? The speed of improvement and
um,
you know,
damn,
right? In,
I'm
in the
always late in this
GPT.
stuff. I'm always late. I'm like
I'm
I
late. I'm not always early. I'm early to some things, but some things I'm late to. But yeah, with 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 this kind of technology, because I was a strategist at Microsoft, I've always tracked it and understood it and cared about it. I also have a special needs son, and he's going to have a hard time in life. The glasses are going to make his life much better.
yeah, that's the power of technology, right? I wonder, however, how would spatial computing change also businesses? For example, I'm not just talking about virtual meeting, that everyone can work remote. And I'm talking about, for example, even the app that we have on our phone right now. Right now, they're all designed for like a 2D experience.
Yeah.
Looks to me, and maybe I'm wrong, please correct me, but looks to me that even everything that is currently existing needs to be reinvented, or if not reinvented, redesigned. So I think
Yeah.
there are huge untapped opportunities. So I
Yes.
wonder if you can help
This.
me spot some.
Yeah. Well, we already mentioned a couple. People keep telling me I don't really want to go on a metaverse where there's strangers, right? There are some people like I'm attracted to that. I like going to places where there's strangers. But I do a lot of consumer research, right? And people keep telling me, no, that's not attractive to me. I want to go and play simple games with my friends and family, ping pong, blackjack, Monopoly, bowling, mini golf, right? Things you can play in your house with your friends or family, so you don't have to. Like my best friend lives 2 hours away, right? So if I want to go and drive there, it's 4 hours just to go see him. Well, hey, can we put on a device and then play blackjack together on Friday night? That's a lot better than me driving to his house, right? And that's coming. You asked about enterprise. Enterprise is changing already because of this. For instance, we could spend an hour just going through all the different things I've seen. One of them was MetaView, which is a little company out of Cleveland Clinic, and they built a surgery app for a HoloLens. I have a HoloLens over here somewhere, and the surgeon puts on the HoloLens, and it shows them how to cut the tumor out of your chest. Right, it helps them do their surgery in 3D on top of the patient. So it overlays the scans on top of your body. And the thing actually shows you like a video game how to get the tool into the right place. When it's in the right place, it turns green, you can start cutting, right? And those are the kinds of early things that augmented reality is being used for. It's just those are very expensive use cases. The surgeons are getting paid $300,000. The device costs $3,500. The custom software costs millions of dollars to create, right? But it has a big impact on a very expensive process, right? If a surgeon touches something, he has to wash his hands. It costs $1,500 just to wash your hands, right? Somebody's actually figured out all the costs of everything in the surgery room. So having a better outcome because you're using new technology there makes a lot of sense. That kind of technology is coming to a whole lot of things, helping us fix a washing machine that's broken or helping us do something new. Is going to be using the same kind of technology. But I've seen factories use this, right? Volkswagen built a digital twin of their entire factory floor so that they could do training at home, right? So that a worker gets hired by VW, gets a VR headset, does training before he even gets allowed to be on the factory floor for his job or her job. And goes through all the safety things that they have to worry about because they're working next to robots that can crush them, right? So you got to be careful of where what you're doing. And yeah, this is already starting to change companies. It's just, it hasn't gotten mainstream. It's little tiny, experiments here and there and here and there that cost a lot of money. But we're starting to get into a place where the technology is getting a lot better. And now that over the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of movement. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of movement, and but still, I wonder. This is just scratching the surface. I think, there is so much more
Yeah.
potential,
Well,
right?
it
What do
just
you
keeps
think?
going, right? Because eventually we get computers hooking up to our brain. I have one down here from Snapchat, bought a company called NextMind that puts a bunch of sensors on the back of your head, which is where all your visual processing is being done, right? So I'm seeing you with my eyes, but my brain is processing that all in the back of my head. And so if you put some sensors back there with some AI that understands what your brain, what your electrical signals are doing, you can start building new kinds of brain computer interfaces, and that's real exciting. But that's a little bit further, 10 years, 5 years from really being something that a consumer would consider. We have to get glasses first because glasses are how the computer will figure out your brain, right? Because the Appleizer has eye sensors that look inside your eye and know where you're looking and know a lot about you. And that process of getting that data of understanding how you think, how you look at things, how you interact with things is real important when you start hooking up other computer interfaces. And Mark Zuckerberg has a band that you're going to wear on your arm that lets you shoot a gun without shooting it, right? All you have to do is think about it and it shoots it. It's like, what? How does that work? Oh yeah, just a little tiny twitch down here, the electrical signal going down your arm, the computer can pick up, right, and do something with. So there's it's never ending, right? It's just some things are really unattainable even for a government. Quantum computing right now, governments have some of it, but it's not very good yet. You spend another $1 trillion and another $1 trillion, all of a sudden the government has it, right? And then the cost starts coming down so that businesses have it. Then the cost comes down, so everybody has it, right?
Yeah, you touch upon a point, huh? And I believe we started to talk about this when we first met in our first call together, and it's something that gives me
Yeah,
pause, and that's the use of data. You said it
yeah,
before, right? So these devices basically look at the way you look at the world, literally,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
With your eyes, they
yeah.
see what you pay attention to, and they can kind of
Yeah.
infer how you operate, what you're
Oh,
thinking to
not
a
just
certain
infer.
yeah.
It's
I, I saw like
We got to
while I
talk
was
about my psychiatrist. That
I saw the video. I saw the video while I was preparing for this interview. I saw your YouTube video. We're gonna leave it also in the description below
yeah,
of your therapy session,
yeah,
with a therapist and ChatGPT.
yeah.
So if you combine what you write
And that
online,
didn't have eye sensors or brain
yeah,
computer
exactly.
interfaces, right? It was just listening to the microphone. you know?
So I think already most people have a very hard time understanding themselves and who
Yeah,
they are. This is like we spend a lifetime, I think, wondering, who am I? A
yeah,
lifetime. And those devices are going to know better than anyone else, including us, especially us. We are most often blind about ourselves, who we
Or
are.
if we do know, we can't control it unless you
Yeah,
really, do some meditate, like serious meditation. Like a friend of mine did 7 days of meditating, right, at a Vispasa resort. That kind of meditation where you're forced to sit on a mat for 24 hours and just do meditation exercises, that lets you figure out how your brain works. I'm not
yeah,
there. I'm not there.
me
I,
neither.
I I know sort of my traumas and how to why I do certain things, but fixing that is real. Here's an example. I went to Stanford's VR lab with Jeremy Bailenson, and if you ever get a chance to do the tour and get his demo, he he gave this demo to Mark Zuckerberg, and a month later he bought Oculus, which began his VR experiments. I knew that the plank was coming. There's a demo there where he walks you across a plank, right, in VR. I knew it was coming. I watched YouTube videos of people doing it. I I knew my rational side of my brain knew I was on a conference room floor wearing VR, right? I knew there was three people around me to catch me if I fell or did anything like that. So I knew I was safe, the rational part of my brain. But when you're actually in VR and you're walking across the plank and then the floor falls away and you're on the plank over a canyon or over a void, your mind starts flipping out. And there's nothing you can do rationally to control your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind wants off the plank in the worst way. And it showed me that humans don't really have control of themselves, most of us, even when we're prepared, even when our rational mind knows what's going on, our subconscious is in control. And so you're absolutely right. Most people don't understand what their subconscious is doing, right? And how to control it. I don't understand how to control my subconscious, right? I'm trying to learn, but um,
What are you doing to try
it's
to learn? I'm curious.
well, that's why I was talking to a psychiatrist. Right? I was like, here's a
You do it
psychiatrist
on
who's using it.
YouTube in front of everyone.
Well, that's me. I'm an open book. Everybody knows my mental illnesses, and so I'm like, okay, everybody knows what I've done bad in life. It was in the New York Times, so let's go and do this. And what we're talking about is I sat down with a psychiatrist for 30 minutes, had just a conversation like this, not much different than what we're talking about here, right? And it listened to that conversation and wrote highly technical notes about the conversation, about my mental state. Like, oh, he has PTSD. He has, he's been sexually abused as a child. Oh, right. He just took notes on our conversation and put them in scientific language for the doctor so that the doctor could watch me over time and see if I'm improving or if some of the things that it noticed are getting better. And so, yeah, that's crazy. 30 minutes, right? What happens after 40 hours?
And if you combine it already with what they know of you outside of the therapy session, like your browsing history and what you're asking, you know,
These things. What if it could listen to every single conversation I've ever had? Like, I've done thousands of hours of Twitter spaces, right? And I get triggered there. I get angry or, get confused or whatever. And so it would pick up on that. It could go through thousands of hours of conversation and figure out even more detail about me. Like, and it already has, right? It read 20 years of my blogs. And so if you ask ChatGPT about me, it knows me pretty well. It can write a blog like I would write it because it knows my language pattern, right? It's insane what's coming. And most people have no clue. That's why I did the psychiatrist, because I wanted to show people this new technology, large language models, AI, like OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? They're very powerful new machines that can do new things that are unexpected almost, right? Listen to it. this is a fun thing, right? You get in fact, here's something fun. Take this interview after it's over, just stick the recording into Chat GPT, right? You can stick an hour of audio in there. It'll make a transcript. Then just post it to Chat GPT and see what it says. It'll come back and start talking to you about our conversation. It's like,
For sure.
what?
I'm gonna try that, and then I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna tag you on Twitter. I'm
and,
gonna be
and
like,
then and then you can start talking to the engine and say, okay, you have this hour conversation with Robert Scoble. Can you write a tweet based on this conversation? And it can. It's insane. Or write a blog post based on what we're talking about, right? It can. It's like, what?
I would admit when I create content, it's of
Yeah,
great help. Like I
yeah,
have like my prompts, that I spent some time, crafting for both help me coming up with questions. I also ask questions to ChatGPT.
yeah,
Or like for the title of the video, the thumbnail suggestions and all that stuff. It's absolutely incredible. I still need to
yeah.
get better at it, but
We all
you
do.
know, it's
This is
it's
why
a
I'm
new
trying to,
job.
yeah, I'm trying to use AI first for everything. It's hard to do that because there's a lot of friction. But the more important things you use AI first, right? Even non-important things like what should I have for dinner at this restaurant? I
Yeah.
ask it a lot about that. It's pretty good at that, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, and it starts showing you how to use it and what it's good for, and where it makes mistakes, and right, and how it can be used. And that's how I discovered some of these things, right? Just playing around with it and trying things, right?
Yeah. But like I want to go back
Talking to people.
to the getting to know ourselves versus
Yeah,
the technology getting to know us better than we do, which we
yeah.
know doesn't take much, right? You can trick the
No.
brain in so many different ways, and the brain won't know the difference. So, how do we protect, if we can, ourselves? How do we
Oof.
protect our own data? And if, perhaps more controversial, even, shall we? And or shall we simply accept the doom of, hey,
Uh,
technology is here to stay. This thing is
it
gonna know us better than we do. We might
it
as well
doesn't really
accept it.
care. It
Yeah.
doesn't really care. It's just a machine with a trillion knobs on it, and it doesn't care. It really doesn't need your data to do much new. It knows a lot of things already, right? And so the chance that you're going to have something that you need to protect from that are really not that big a chance anymore. where where I'm seeing people still be concerned is around intellectual property, right? If you copy a spreadsheet and put it into Chat GPT, it's really useful because now you can talk to Chat GPT about the spreadsheet. Hey, can you find an anomaly here? Can you change the row and the column? Can you make a graph out of this? Stuff like that, right? You start talking to it. But you just give all of the intellectual property in the spreadsheet to Chat GPT. At least that's the fear. Truth is, if you're coming in through the API, they say they don't record it. But this is a new company. We don't know how to trust this company, right? I don't trust companies anymore. Mark Zuckerberg lied to me personally about data, and so I don't trust any company. I think it's over. I think it doesn't matter. But here's what the companies are doing. The company is putting up a firewall, right? Intellectual property is over here. OpenAI is over here. They're building their own large language models that are inside the firewall that the employee will talk to with their spreadsheets or their data lakes or the patents or whatever, because it's really useful, right, for writing patents. I met a rocket engineer who used OpenAI to write patents, and it took 1/10 the time that it used to take him to write a patent, right? So already people, even rocket scientists, are starting to use OpenAI and just give it all the data. It doesn't matter to them. But if it does, you have to have this internal LLM. You have to build your own LLM or get your own LLM that runs inside your firewall that doesn't transfer information over to OpenAI or has a system internally to figure out what is appropriate to go to OpenAI. right, for other answers, because OpenAI will have other answers that your own internal LLM doesn't have. So companies are building these hybrid LLM models. One LLM internally that talks to the other LLMs externally and decides based on the company rules what can be passed to OpenAI. And that's the bleeding edge right now. That when you go to the hackathons, there's a lot of people thinking about systems
Mm.
for businesses and are building very complex. The psychiatrist is a good example of that, right? The
Yeah.
psychiatrist had a system, very complex system built for the psychiatrist to listen and to strip off all the personal information, right? The first step is his technology. It strips off all the personal identifiable information before it goes to OpenAI because it has to survive HIPAA review, right? HIPAA is a regulation in the United States for protecting people's medical privacy, right?
Yeah. But and this is just also much bigger than medical data, because
Wow.
when you combine OpenAI and ChatGPT with spatial computing, this is something that ChatGPT now cannot do, right? Can track you what you're searching for and what you ask it to do, but
Yeah.
cannot really interact with the way you see the world, with the way you move. So
Yeah.
when you combine all those data together, right, then you get a pretty good understanding of who you are as an individual. And this is where I get scared a little bit. It's well, they can sell me anything, but they can also sway the way I think. They can condition the way I think,
Yeah.
my what I purchase, but also what I vote, for example,
Yep.
or what I believe
Yep.
in.
Yep. Or they could radicalize. I mean, if you're a right wing Republican or a left wing Democrat, we can radicalize you. We can take you further, further, further. Using the computer could move you a little bit every day, and radicalize you and change your votes or change your belief system. It could. This is a fear. There's a number of different fears, problems coming at us, and that's one. When we get to Neuralink, when we're putting wires inside our brain, oh, then free will goes away. Because if there's a wire on your brain, you can't control it. If the wire
Mm.
tells you to raise your hand, you're going to raise your hand. There's nothing you can do about it, right? And so free will goes away. That's a fear. And the ability to have an internal dialogue with yourself, right? Should I say this thing? Should I believe this? Should I get out of this situation? Right? All these thoughts that people have internally, that has to be protected. And I think we need regulation there. There is some real problems coming, over the next 20 years for human beings because of this new technology, particularly once you start putting wires inside people's brains. You start doing that, then it changes what it means to be human, right? You're integrated with a computer, and that's very powerful. And if you have Parkinson's, you understand that it can really improve your life, but it brings major new problems that humans are going to have to regulate, figure out, right, engineer around, and build systems to worry about it. But yeah, it's a major new problem. It can change our democracy, and it's something to pay attention to if you're a human.
Yeah, how do you think society and governments will need to change, to also protect
Yeah,
the way we live our own humanity, and maybe this is inevitable, right? It's homo deus, it's the next inevitable, or homo machina, the man machine, right?
yeah.
Or-
I've her in my ear. The movie Her.
I,
Remember that?
I mean, it's not much like, if you think about it,
Yeah,
I had my first phone when I was 10
yeah,
10. And
yeah,
since then, a phone has been plastered to my hand everywhere I go from that age onward. It's basically all my life.
yeah.
So for me, it's not much different.
My kids, by the time they're my age, they're going to be very integrated with technology, right? I mean, look at the psychiatrist thing. Listen, the ability to listen to me for 30 minutes, figure out who I am and how to fix my mental state. Right? That's insane. And we haven't even gotten eye tracking and cameras that can see everything in your life. The computer vision that's coming is insane. The AI out of Berkeley recognizes more than 200,000 items in your world, right, with a camera. So you just aim your camera. You're seeing this. There's apps to recognize plants, right? So you aim the camera at a plant and it tells you the name of the plant, right? You know, and soon it's going to do that for everything in your life, everything. Like this cup was made by a company, right? And who made this? How much is 10 of these on Amazon, right? It can know that, and it can know that it's on my table at this location. So if I move it, it can know where I left it, right? So I can ask Siri in the future, "Hey Siri, where's my coffee?" Right? And it'll know.
Yeah,
It'll go, "You left it in the bedroom." You
that will be
know?
handy. That for
Yeah.
sure will be handy.
Where we're going is we're going to have a virtual assistant that we can talk to all the time about everything, right? Music, food, work. Hey, I need to build a new factory floor, or I'll talk to my assistant. Hey, I need to build a new, I need to build a new product. Here's what I'm thinking of. How would you do it? You can already ask ChatGPT these kinds of questions, and it answers you along there. But yeah,
I'm spending a considerable amount of time thinking about, and also thinking about how can I personally leverage, but um, how the relationship with work is gonna change, you know, and how can we leverage spatial computing and AI to become more independent, if you want, because this is what I see massive layoffs. They're already happening, and it's going to be even more dramatic, moving forward, right? But at the same time, it's never been easier to create a business and do something on your own. The problem is going to be that since it's so easy and the barrier is so low, it's very easy to replicate and very, very difficult to defend. So I wonder, how do you see, this the concept of work evolving, and what should people pay attention to also in terms of untapped opportunities?
people who really understand AI and how to use it in their lives generally are not the ones getting fired, right? And so that's the first thing you have to understand how powerful this AI is, how fast it's improving, and when will it have an impact on you. And if you're the one making the impact, you're going to be the one that's kept, right? Because there's still going to be humans in businesses, right? You're not going to see a completely AI run business. Not soon. Not this year. I know somebody building an AI board of directors.
I had a guest
Soon.
who asked ChatGPT to be the CEO of his company. He has built like the company,
Yeah,
and he has
yeah,
like investors now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had to rethink that through. Yeah, it's not quite that good for most businesses, but it's getting there. Think about a truck driver though. The number one job in America is driving trucks, right? 1.3 million people work there. We all know autonomous trucks are coming, and they're coming someday, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Sometime in the next decade, you're going to see a lot of autonomous trucks because it's way safer to have a computer driving than to have a human driving. And my Tesla is already driving everywhere, right? So, Uber driver, taxi driver, truck driver, your job is under threat. You're not going to have that job in 20 years. Not going to happen. Except for in the poorest of the communities that can't afford a couple $1,000 on on a car or a truck to drive the truck. But those jobs are going away, and we have to have an answer to that. And we don't have an answer to that, right? People are talking about guaranteed minimum income. Giving somebody $2,000 is not going to keep them afloat. A family of four in a rich city, it takes $14,000 a month. Nobody is suggesting that you're going to pay somebody $14,000 a month just to sit at home yet. That's not going to happen. So we need policies and retraining and social networks. I'm sorry, social systems. Safety nets to catch people as this change comes, because it's going to come, and it's going to come to a lot of people. Lawyers, truck drivers, right? White collar people, they're getting laid off because AI is starting to do their job. And you take it another 10 years, it's going to do a lot of people's jobs, right? So it's a worry. And it's a real problem. And in America, we're not having a good conversation politically about what to do about this. There is an answer: augmented reality, because augmented reality can retrain a truck driver to do almost anything quickly, much faster than any education system you've ever seen. I've talked to tractor companies that are using augmented reality glasses to teach people how to take apart the oil pump in real time on top of the tractor, right? Reflect built a system for Mercedes-Benz for firefighters to come up to a wrecked car and understand how to cut apart the car without hitting electrical lines or gas lines in the car, right? In real time, no classroom needed, right? So there is powerful new education technology that will take humans into new jobs. And there are lots of new jobs, right? Just because the old job's gone away, look at OpenAI's hiring. They're hiring a lot of people. They're just very technical jobs. They're very skilled jobs. They're jobs that people had to go to school for 6, 7, 8 years for, right? We need to get people there. And it's a big problem, certainly for my kids' generation. It's a real problem. So I don't have the complete answer there, but I see, as this new technology comes, it also provides answers for humans, getting humans back into productive work. And there's not going to be a robot for every house for a long time, right? So plumbing, glass, cement, all the workers that are needed to do things in the world. You're not going to have a robot that does all that quickly. Eventually, yeah. For my kids' life, by the end of their life, they're going to have dozens of robots around them, right? Helping them out, cooking dinner, folding laundry, working on the factory floors, right? Doing jobs. And so that's a new world. And it's a scary world, because you see the fear and the change and the pain and the loss, but you also don't see the opportunity and what is coming. And I'm starting to pay attention to that a lot. How business people are using AI. Yeah.
What have you seen, of how business people are using AI?
Oil workers using it in Texas. Video game people are using it to build video games, right? I talked to politicians using it. I talked to a group of pastors who are using it to write their sermons on Sunday, right? So we see evidence that people are changing how they're working because of this new technology. They're getting used to it pretty quickly, and you take that process another few years, a lot of things are about to change, right?
Yeah.
And that's scary to a lot of people, because most people don't like change. Even I don't like change, right? It means I have to learn something new. I have to put some effort into it, right? And I might have my life go away. I need to figure that out. So, right, and everybody has to deal with that.
Yeah. I wish we had the playbook, that explain, oh, you need to do this and you need to do
We
that.
do. It's called Chat GPT. Ask Chat
True.
GPT. I'm about to
You
lose
can
my
ask it.
job as a truck driver. What should I do? Probably
True.
will have some answers. In fact, let's
That's
ask it.
true.
Let's ask it. See,
Okay.
this is the impulse. This is what people have to do. It's like, open up Chat GPT, pay your $20 a month, right, and start using it for things, right? I'm a truck driver, and I'm about to lose my job because of autonomous vehicles. What should I do to prepare for the change that's coming? Right.
What does it
And
say?
Well, first of all, it recognized what I said really quickly, right? That's
Okay.
a new text to voice system called Whisper. It's insane. I use this at noisy parties to listen to a group of people, and it heard everything, even in a really noisy nightclub. All right, so here you go. Stay informed, develop some skills, diversify your expertise, network, consider entrepreneurship, right? It has a whole bunch of answers, right? And so you started working on some of those and digging into it. It keeps helping you, right? It keeps teaching you. It knows a lot of things. It's really interesting to have this kind of conversation with an AI and understand, how to change my career, how to get ready for this change, right? What should I do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in equal part excited and in equal part scared because like
yeah.
I think about, what we talked about earlier, about free will and so I'm like torn between the two. I don't know.
You could be Amish,
I,
go live it. There's 30,000 people who are like, we don't use
yeah.
technology here. You got to you got to have a horse. You can't have a
Yeah.
car.
I lived in a very close to an Amish community when I was in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, and I greatly respect their choices, but I don't think that's for me.
Not for me either. I like.
With
I mean, how would I do this without technology, right? I mean, we're using a technology that was developed for the military to talk to each other, right?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of the listeners of this show are passionate about technologies, and they are trying to figure out how they can leverage those technologies and create a personal brand to be financially independent. That's what most
Uh,
of my listeners have in common. So
yeah.
I wonder, since you are the perfect marriage between expertise in technology and knowing how to leverage social media, what would you tell those
If I was
listeners,
starting out
me
today,
included?
yeah,
Yeah,
if I was
like
starting out
what
today,
would be your strategy,
have a point of view. If I was starting out today, I would pick a niche that's not well covered that will be more and more and more important over time, right? Augmented reality today is not important. So if you build a whole brand around augmented reality over time, as new products and new things come out, all of a sudden you're in the middle of an industry. I did that with AI, right? I saw AI happening early because Siri was launched on my show, and that was the first AI consumer app. And so I've been watching AI since it turned consumer. Now, I just interviewed the three founders of Siri on stage, and they were doing AI for 15 years before that at a government, right? Adam Shire ran the biggest AI group in the world at one point before it turned consumer. So, there's people who are working on things right now that won't matter for 20 years, right? And that's crazy. So pick one of them, become an expert on it, write a book on it and do interviews on it, serve it, and today it might not be important, but as the world changes, all of a sudden you're the middle of brain computer interfaces. For instance, there'll be a somebody will come along and build a threads just about brain computer interfaces, and today that's not that important, but 10 years from now it's going to be very important, right? So all of a sudden you have a media company because you've been working on it on a single topic for so long, and covering it and becoming an expert at it.
Yeah,
Build things, right? People who build things, you can build companies, and that's the real trick. If you can build a company, that that means you had to get along with other people. You had to convince investors to put capital into the company. You had to convince customers that you had a product that's interesting, right? That's new and interesting, and get them to buy it, right? That's pretty hard to do. I, we know it can be done because we see it done every day, but it's pretty hard to convince a customer to buy a new thing, right?
it is. It is. Robert, this is I really want to thank you, really. It's an amazing
Thanks. This
interview
was fun.
conversation, really. Thank
You're
you.
good. You do your homework. See, most people don't do their homework, so that's the first rule.
Coming from you, like, okay, you just made my day. Thank you. All right. And
I
for
need to do
listen,
more of that myself because if you do things without some preparation, they tend to go in a different direction than if you actually have some preparation, some thinking, and some homework.
all right. And for listeners, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.
That's all from today's episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you find this episode valuable, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or to the Polyweb podcast on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. It will be fantastic if you could leave us a rating, a review, or a comment, as this really helps other listeners find the show. All the resources mentioned in this episode will be linked in the description and in the show notes. See you on the next episode. And if you cannot wait until next week, you can watch this episode right here that relates to some of the things that we talk about in this episode. Bye.